chat. Top chat. Let's get that out. Cool. Oh, what's it doing over there? There we go. Right, we're back. So yeah, obviously the first live stream we had to have a little snack break. We're back. Not a lot's really happening in sport in the last hour or so. Obviously, yeah, as I say again, the big story for me today was the MotoGP and the farce that was Silverstone and the poor organisation and the poor planning. We've covered that. What else? Michael Keane, Everton player, obviously it's been confirmed he's fractured his skull. That head clash yesterday, so they've got to look after him a little bit. Quite a serious injury. He's very lucky it's only a small hairline fracture and no further complications at the moment. He should be back in training in about 3 to 4 weeks. So that's reasonably positive, but head injuries are notoriously difficult to diagnose correctly what is wrong and treat. It's notoriously difficult. Also, if you're a Watford fan, you're top of the Premier League. Join top with Liverpool. I think if you're a Watford fan, I think you would have taken this start this season. Burnley losing again. It's a bit of a tricky start for Sean Dyche's men. Fulham have got their first win. West Ham are rooted to the bottom. So if you're a Premier League fan and you watch your teams play, Man City, I think are missing Kevin De Bruyne a little bit more than they realise. I think they're going to miss him more than they realise. I think Liverpool are starting to grind out wins as well as win well. So Liverpool looking quite threatening. Watford have had a good start. I think the issue with Newcastle is can they keep Rafa Benitez long term? With the off-field issues with Newcastle, with the collapse of the takeover bid from Amanda Staveley last year, that's had a massive impact. And losing late on to Chelsea today is not going to help matters. But people are still asking me who I think is going to get relegated, who do I think is going to get promoted from this league or that league, and I tell them this: it's far too early in a season to say this team is definitely going to win or this team is definitely going to go down. But your season is generally defined by how you start the first 2 months. We've already seen 2 managers get sacked. Whether it's deserved or not, I really don't know. But 2 managers have already lost their jobs in the first, this week. We're only on in the 3rd week of August, so there is that concern that I think football may be slightly, the culture of football has got to the point now where it's getting a little bit much. I think calmer heads need to prevail. But that's that. I mean, Notts County are propping up the Football League. They've only got a point. They're the bottom of the professional football leagues, bottom of League Two. Not the start I think the club or the fans were expecting. They got to playoffs last year. They had a good cup run. They got some good TV time in that cup run, in the FA Cup. Earned the club a lot of extra revenues, and they just didn't get started this season. That one, Kevin Nolan had been there a couple of years by that point, so you could understand that. Okay, the board were expecting more. They're expecting, the club to kick on. But Scunthorpe United, that's all about. It makes no sense. Okay, they've lost a couple of games, a couple of heavy defeats. It happens. You're not going to win every game that you play. I just do not understand. That was a very knee-jerk, snap decision by the board at Scunthorpe United. I don't know enough about Scunthorpe United to have a more in-depth conversation. I said that in the video I did. I don't know enough about the club to make a deep assessment on it. But from face value, this is a club that were in the League One playoffs last year. Their goal is clearly to get back to the Championship. Their goal is to climb up the football ladder. I think the ultimate goal for any professional football club is obviously to ultimately end up in the Premier League, where the riches really are. It's just how you get there. And we see how many clubs have really stretched themselves financially for Premier League football, and it's not paying off. They need to have a look at how football finances are structured and a possible salary cap. It has to happen. It has to come. It's the way football is at the moment is not sustainable. And I'm saying that as a sports fan. There is no way that football can carry on along this spending path and the wage path at the top level without a salary cap. There is no way it can continue along this vein. It is unsustainable, um, and it's not right. At the end of the day, it's not right. It's completely unsustainable in my view. I think it is, and it cannot continue because uh, it cannot go on because there has to be a point where the bubble has to burst. Where is this money coming from? The last 10 years, loads of people have had their wages frozen or cut or small pay rises. Um, how how can football and other professional sports keep making so much money when the average person in the street is not getting a pay rise, not getting that bonus, being laid off from work still? I mean, there's something seriously. It's got to reach a point where it's just not. I don't know how it can be sustained. You know what I mean? It, but that is a debating point for um, another day and another video. I mean, I've argued that I think European football does need a salary cap. It does need a transfer cap on how much players can be sold for or length of contract. Agents' fees need to be far more transparent. There are plans in place to force the agents to be more transparent, um, but they're just plans. They're not. There's no concrete 100% uh, rules in place, um, and that's a problem. That is a problem. There is no 100% rule in place at this current time over transfer fees, wages, salaries, bonuses. Um, but it has to happen. A salary cap in football has to come in at some point. The way it's going right now, it's unsustainable. It really is. Um, Other sports and other leagues around the world can do it exceptionally well and have proven that a salary cap can work. For some reason, European football doesn't want to, try and live within its means. It's getting to the point now where I think it's unsustainable. Fans are feeling less and less. The sport is really not treating them well. Fans feel they're being priced out. They're now starting to feel it's a rich man's game when it's actually got working class roots. Most of the fan base, they're feeling a bit more detached from the sport than they were 10, 20, 30 years ago. They feel that the clubs and the players are a bit more distanced, and they feel that look at the deal by La Liga to take games to the US. Even the players now are threatening to go on strike, and what they are trying to do is get the fans on side. Um, when the Spanish Players Union met in the week, part of it was they weren't consulted about the plans, and that is a business decision, and that is fair enough. But part of it said they felt the fans were feeling a disconnect between them, the players, and the clubs, and the fans themselves, and that the fans would not benefit from this decision. It is a pure cash grab. It is also exceptionally interesting that the Real Madrid manager, Julian Lopetegui, has come out and said he supports the players' union and the players wholeheartedly in their stance against La Liga. It's also highly interesting that the Spanish Federation has now come out and is now criticising the plans that it signed up to. The Federation would have given the okay to the league to go ahead and make this deal. The Spanish Federation is now going, we've made a mistake. I can see a player strike in Spain taking place, and I can see it having further knock-on effects for other European leagues around, and I can see it actually the players' salaries and agents' fees will come up. I can see that happening. I can see the fact that the players feel they haven't been consulted on some of these plans. I can see the issue of player salaries coming up. The league will use that leverage against them, considering that the players need to have the fans on side for their strike to really work. And I can see it having far wide-reaching consequences than the players intend. But it also shows that the Spanish Federation, the Spanish FA, and La Liga have underestimated the players, and they've completely taken the fans for granted. Also, I can see this proposed deal because it's a 15-year contract that La Liga have signed with this media company called Relevant. I can see the MLS owners not being happy with it either, because you're taking a regular season game from La Liga and plonk it in the US. That is not La Liga's primary market. Their primary market should be their primary fan base, surely. Um, yes, I agree. Yes, you want to obviously have a wider reach around the world for TV rights. You do not play competitive matches in a foreign country. It's just bizarre. I know they took the Spanish Cup final to overseas Spanish territory in Morocco this just past season. That's fine. It's still Spanish territory. But to take a competitive league or cup match out of its domestic setting and plonk it halfway across the world makes no logical sense to me. And we didn't mention this in the first live stream tonight, but it's still rumbling on, and there's a meeting taking place with the players' union again in the beginning of September. And I wouldn't be surprised if, yeah, but it's because of the political and economic links between the two. They are trying to appeal to the Arab fan base because both countries have large immigrant Arab populations that also end up playing football. Um, there has been a few murmurings within certain sections of football fans in France and Spain that they weren't 100% happy with that. Part of the fact that the French Super Cup was in Morocco is that the Moroccan FA wanted the French FA to support their World Cup bid, and they would have signed a contract saying, yeah, if you we'll allow you to play some games here, just vote for us. That's part of the reason why. But the French do have a very large North African population in French cities. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the Moroccan FA asking, basically cutting a deal with the French FA to gain their support in their failed World Cup bid. What I don't understand about La Liga, though, firstly, Morocco's on the same time zone pretty much as France. I think it's on the same time zone as us in the UK. It's pretty much, there's not much of a time difference. The TV audience wouldn't be affected. Um, a lot of Moroccan football fans follow the French league, and there's a lot of Moroccans who've been born or are descendants of Moroccan immigrants living in France. There are political and economic and social links between the two countries that go back 200 years. But yeah, it's the same principle, but they've only played a one-off. It's the Super Cup. It's a one-off game. What they're saying with La Liga is they're going to stage every year, one regular season game in the US. Is that a whole round of fixtures? Or is that just a one-off game that they choose at random? Because I cannot see Girona or Getafe getting the same amount of fans in than Villarreal, than Valencia or Atletico Madrid or Real Madrid or Barcelona or Atletico Bilbao. I just cannot see it, and I don't think the MLS would be happy that Spanish clubs are playing competitive matches when they're going to lose out making money. Because if you're trying to target fans, and your league is far more competitive than the domestic league that you're competing with, where you're taking this game, what American fans are going to want to watch? Real Madrid, Barcelona, or DC United versus Portland Timberwolves, or whatever it is? You work that one out. Who would you rather go watch? If you are a football fan living in the US, who do you want to see? DC United versus New York Red Bull, or a Madrid derby between Atletico and Real? What would you rather want to see? That's what the MLS owners, I think, will be putting up their hands and going to their federation, which is US Soccer, which doesn't have direct control over the MLS, and going, why have you agreed to this? Because they stand to lose millions. And MLS is, no, they wouldn't want to watch Qatar. Levante, no. I I do not understand the logic, because if that is the game that it gets pulled out of the hat, or they decide a fixture over there, half empty stadium. If excuse me, if it's Real Madrid, Atletico Madrid, that damages the MLS brand. It does. And the fact that the Real Madrid coach Lopetegui has come out and said he supports the players in their dispute over this says something. I don't think the coaching staff want to do this either, because there's a minimum 5 hour time difference, up to 8 hours on the West Coast. The fans in Spain have a bigger say over how their clubs are run than in the UK, because they elect club presidents. They actually have an actual say in who runs the club. And I can see many club presidents losing their jobs, and I can see the Spanish Federation Union, the Spanish Players Union, going on strike. I can see it because they're trying to get the fans on side. If you read the statements given by Sergio Ramos, Sergio Busquets, I can't remember who was the Atletico Madrid representative, but you look at the statements being released by the club representatives. Most of them were the club captains or vice captains who were selected to go. All of them say that the fans are feeling a disconnect and feel that we are leaving them behind, and that we take their money and we don't give enough back. They're basically saying the fans are being ripped off by this. And also, this move will only benefit 5 or 6 big Spanish clubs that have an overseas fan base. Getafe, Levante. Levante are a reasonable sized Spanish club. Racing Santander, people outside of Spain know about them. Celta Vigo, they're getting more European football again. They used to be in Europe 20 years ago. They had a lean spell. But how many football fans know about Real Betis and Real Zaragoza and Espanyol? How many non-Spanish fans would know about these other clubs in Spain that haven't been in Europe for better part of a decade, 2 decades? That's the issue. How many American fans would know that there are 2 professional clubs in Barcelona? You've got Barcelona and Espanyol. How many North American fans would know that Racing Santander is the second Basque side after Athletic Bilbao? This is another issue that I don't think they're marketing it very well. They're basically saying, we've signed this agreement, but we're not saying which clubs are going to be playing in the US and in what cities and in what stadiums. And we haven't discussed, and they haven't got the players on board. They haven't got the coaches on board. Clearly, the clubs have signed up to this, because to get this deal done, you would have to talk to both the top 2 tiers of Spanish football, because obviously the second division, promotion relegation system, there are teams in the Spanish second tier that have played in La Liga. You're going to have to get them on board as well. That's about 40 clubs you're going to have to get to sign up to this. Clearly, the clubs have, but I can't see it benefiting Getafe, Levante, maybe Villarreal. They're reasonably well known because they've done well in the Champions League. Valencia, possibly, Sevilla. But half the La Liga clubs I don't see benefiting, because they just do not have the European pedigree. In Europa League, Champions League, the old Cup Winners' Cup, the old UEFA Cup. They just don't have that kind of pedigree. They haven't had enough exposure to club football on the European club football stage. And this is basically an attempt to get the Latin American, Hispanic viewership in the US, and the soccer mum viewership in the US. Which, by the way, the MLS are trying, and it's failing, because the Latino community is more into baseball, and Major League Baseball has a far bigger share of the sports market than the MLS ever will, because their seasons clash. I don't see how it's going to work. If you can't get the players and the coaches, you coach the players on side, it's not going to work. Fans are already up in arms about it. And if you go back a decade, when Peter Scudamore came up with the idea of the 39th Premiership game in the US, the fan reaction to that was very swift and very negative. And guess what? We haven't played that 39th game. It's never been attempted. Yet there is still US investment in the Premier League and in the Championship. The Fenway Group, who own the Boston Bruins and the Boston Red Sox, own Liverpool. And that's fine. They have realised to do regular season game over there. European sports fans don't like the idea. The reason why American sports have come over to Europe to host regular season games is they're franchise based. It's a completely different sporting culture, because teams can quite easily be, they're failing in a city, we'll move into another market. Here, it doesn't happen. It's a club culture where it's a local community club that is built around the community is built around it, and it's part of the local town, the local city, the local village, whatever it may be. North America is franchised, so a rich billionaire goes, I want to have a team in this location because I think it can make me the most money. Yeah, massive difference in sporting culture. We have promotion relegation, they don't. But no, it's going to be interesting. I will be following this story for a while, I think. It's really interesting what's going on with it. I'm going to be following this for quite some time. That meeting in September is going to be really important, and what comes out of that meeting could say whether we have a player strike, which could have complications and consequences across European football, or La Liga try and work something out, and because they haven't consulted these players, and these players are big name players. These are really big star players, some of them. They've got World Cups, Champions Leagues, Europa Leagues, European Championships. Um, they these players have a lot of clout, and the fans as well. Um, they have a big say in how the clubs are run, and they're reacting badly. So they have to be bloody careful how they go about this. If the Spanish FA, which okayed the deal in the first place, is now being critical of the deal, I think they worked out that the backlash is not worth the. I'm not sure it's worth the risk. We have a Notts County fan. Okay, I I think the Kevin Nolan thing. I think it's interesting to get a fan's reaction from this. But for me, as someone who's been watching football since '92, so I was watching football before the Premier League was a thing. I watched the tail end of the 91-92 season. So um, I think I've seen football change. The Premier League era has not given fans the benefit that it said it would. Sky Sports, BT Sport, they were designed to keep costs down. What has happened is exactly the opposite. And this debate and the question about money in football, I'll get to that. But no, at least we have a Notts County fan, and this is a Notts County fan's view on it. And this is interesting because this is why I like the channel. I think it is still too early in the season to sack Nolan, but I can see it being justified. And that's a weird one because I'm normally the guy, one of the few YouTubers who actually stands up for a manager and going, this is insane. The fact that we've already had 2 sackings and we're only the 3rd week of August, um, I've never seen that before. I understand your frustration. Yeah, the eight competitive games won in 2018. I get that. I'm completely on board with that. They haven't won a game this season. I'm completely um, Johnson as well. There's another one. Oh, ah! I've dropped all my paperwork. I knew about Dawes and Nolan. I didn't know about Johnson. So the fact that there's a third is mad. I know about obviously North of Border, Kenny Miller parting ways with Livingston. That is insane. We're not even out of August, and we've had 4 managerial changes. That's bananas. I've never seen anything like it. I thought last season was bananas. I predicted, um, 30 managerial changes in English football or British football this season. I think it's going to be more than that. I really do. I think it's got a point now. But it is interesting looking at a Notts County fan and their view on it. And the Nolan sacking, much like the Dawes sacking, has really. I didn't know about Johnson at Cheltenham. I do think that too early in the season. I understand it. I think I don't know how long Nolan was at Notts County. He's been there a couple of years, so he's had his chance. And obviously last year, good cup run, very good cup run, and he did make the playoffs. So there were a lot of draws in that 2018 run, if you could call it in this year so far. There was a lot of draws in there. I think I don't understand what's gone from getting to the playoffs to being bottom of the football league. Something has gone seriously wrong, and that's most likely in the off season. The off season is where you can have a review of how you've done and plan for your next season. And obviously, Notts County, they want to get into League One, and then the Championship, and then the Premier League, God willing, because that's I think the plan of any team. With us, I mean, Notts County is like the oldest football club, or one of the oldest football clubs in the world. Founder of the Football League, has a bigger fan base than a lot of people actually realise. Because Nottingham is a very interesting city with 2 professional clubs that really hate each other. I do think a club like Notts County cannot afford to go out of the Football League. And I also agree that the money in football now has gone too far. And several times on live streams, I've argued and I've put forward a salary cap because the top level, their salaries are out of control. The clubs that want to get up the pyramid because of the promotion relegation system that European and South American football has are overspending to make it to the next level. They're spending more than the prize money they get in for what they achieve. You have to look at the Championship 2 seasons ago. Only 3 clubs made a post-tax profit, and only 5 clubs made a pre-tax profit. So that says something. And all those clubs, none of them got promoted, and none got relegated. They were all mid-table, all missed the playoffs. So football's in a real crossroads, and I'm concerned where football's going. I really am. The sport has changed so much in my lifetime. I watch it a lot less than I used to. I can see rugby league going the same way because again, it's less accessible to watch. Rugby union, they're starting to give some more club games back to terrestrial free-to-air TV. They did it with Channel 5 last year. They need to give more games back because we've got a World Cup next year in rugby union. But back on the sacking of Nolan and the sacking of Dawes. Dawes, I didn't understand at all. He'd only been in the job literally about 6 games. The statement released by Scunthorpe was pretty shitty. Johnson, I didn't know Cheltenham had sacked him. I'm putting my hand up to that. I did not know he got sacked on Tuesday. So 3 Football League sackings in a week and in August. If this was February, by all means, sack them if they failed by that point. This is the 3rd week of August. I was hoping that there'd be more to this second live stream than football. I did say that in the first one, but there's more people who've come in and want to watch, and that's great. The thing is, I don't know enough about the non-league to again say anything. No, QPR's manager is still there. QPR, haven't sacked him yet that I know of. QPR are in a mess. West Ham, they've got no points. They haven't gelled. I don't think Pellegrini's the problem. I think there's something not right there. QPR are in a right state. There are several clubs that are really having really sluggish starts to the season. And QPR and their financial fair play. Tony Fernandez has really screwed that club up. The amount of, especially on Twitter, and looking at other YouTube channels and looking at comments on people's live streams, because I do watch, Mike, I watch some of your videos, and of course we've got Kemmel, who's a Chelsea fan who has his own channel, and it comes up a lot, and the price of football comes up a lot as well. And I don't want to keep banging the drum about the price of football, but it's not right. I think they have to come up with a salary cap for each league. They have to try and control wages and outgoings because so many clubs now are really in trouble. If you want to ask about what teams I support, I actually have some videos on the channel, but I will get out because I've got some magnets that I made up because I'm a genius. I got a bit bored one day and I bought some magnets and I made some, so I've got some magnets. Let me just dig out some of my sports magnets because I've got all my teams and it's pissing me off. Where's my Blackburn one? Oh, I gave it away. Right. So football team I support. That's my footy team. I'm a Blackburn fan. I have been since '92. So for me sins, we've had a League Cup and a Premiership and 3 relegations in that time. So yeah, Blackburn fan. When it comes to the NHL, obviously I haven't got an Arizona logo, but That's the NHL teams. So they're there. British ice hockey, you know, that's my British ice hockey team, and of course my rugby league team is Canberra Raiders. So kind of handy that I had my magnets to hand. Otherwise, that could have been a right farce trying to find all them, and some of my magnets have disappeared, which I made, which is really really annoying. Yeah, that's um uh, I'm not sure Bradley Dack is ready for the Premier League yet. I think yes, he spent a lot of his time in the lower leagues. That's where he's developing his skills. And there are some very very good players in the lower divisions, and you can always find a good steal. I think what as a Blackburn fan we need to do is just survive. The fact we've had a great start and that's going a long way into getting the amount of points we need. Um, we're still in August. It's a long season. Um, I think Tony Mowbray has done a good job. He's much maligned in Premier League circles for his time at West Brom and how they kept getting slaughtered. Um, but I think, yeah, um, as um, as a Blackburn fan, they just need to just mid-table. I'll be happy with if we get playoffs or we get automatic, that will be amazing. But I think the club is not 100% ready yet to do back to back. That could be more harm than it's worth. We need to just stabilise and if we can get playoffs, I will be more than happy with that. I don't think they're ready for the Premier League yet. And Bradley Dack, I think he's been good. Um, he's been a very good player so far for us. I think yes, definitely. Um, he's still got a bit of development to go, and he's got to hone a few skills here or there, and grow his game a little bit. But I'm not 100% certain he's ready for the Premier League yet. Oh, we have a Celtic fan. Well, there were plans to put Celtic and Rangers and possibly Aberdeen into the English league system about 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. You take Celtic out of Scotland, Scottish football dies. Same with to take Rangers out of it. Um, it you've only got four Welsh clubs that have signed up for the English league system in Wrexham, Newport County, Cardiff, and Swansea. They're the big clubs in Wales. They're the four biggest clubs in Wales. And look at the Welsh league. Look how poor the Welsh league is. The four big clubs in Wales play in England, in the English league system, and look how poor the Welsh league is because of it. The Scottish league has problems. You take one of its big money earners out that league, you kill it. You kill it. I'm sorry. And Celtic would get battered in the Premier League. Not gonna lie, they would get hammered. And I've got a lot of Scottish subscribers, and a lot of them say that the original plan to get Rangers and Celtic and merge them into the English league system would have been financial suicide. And with the way with Setanta collapsing 10 years ago, that would be economic suicide for Scottish football, which is already struggling. The best way to cure Scottish football's within, not by taking teams out, is actually by trying to look at the game and go, right, what can we do to make it a more competitive league and improve the standard? And the way you should do that, um, combine the top, the Scottish Premiership and the Scottish Championship into a top tier. Make it an 18 or 20 team league. That's the only way you're going to improve the quality level of domestic football in Scotland. You've got to look. You haven't qualified for an international tournament in 20 years. Mulgrew penalty taker. I don't like the clubs who have one penalty taker as designated. It should be more of a oh, we're gonna have some football, Scottish football banter. At the end of the day, I'm not a big fan of designated penalty takers. Some players do better for club than country, and vice versa. I'm not gonna uh, debate whether he's good or bad for Scotland, because Scottish international football is a mess right now. Haven't qualified for a major tournament in 20 years, and there are problems with developing players, and they rotate the same number of coaches around the job as well. I think some players perform better for club than country. It happens in a multitude of sports. It's not just football. Some players perform better for their club side than their country, and it's because they'll play a different style of game, different tactics, different teammates. It could be a different culture. They're with their club teammates more, so they have a good working relationship with them. And vice versa. Some players really enjoy playing for their country more than their club. And it's the club country debate. It's the club country debate, which has been raging on for years now in rugby union, football, rugby league. It's the club country debate. It keeps rumbling on. It has rumbled on. And if I'm honest, it should be an honour to represent your country. But you look at Danny Drinkwater last year turning down an England call up. Hasn't been called up by England again by Southgate. Whether you say Drinkwater's a good player or not is irrelevant. Snubbing your national side when you're struggling to get into your club side is not a good idea, to be honest. But no, I think that for me, the way you solve Scottish football's problem is not to take Celtic or Rangers or any club out and merge them. I understand what you're saying because the Welsh clubs do it, or the four big Welsh clubs do it, but Wrexham are out in the non-league right now and got relegated to the Football League a good while ago. Newport County regularly struggle in League Two. They've been close to being relegated back out of the Football League several times. Swansea and Cardiff have just swapped places in the Premier League and Championship, and at times Swansea and Cardiff have both been in the lower professional leagues as well. They haven't really, apart from Swansea winning the League Cup in my lifetime, the last time a Welsh club won a trophy was Cardiff in '39. That is, how it hasn't actually really worked out for the four big Welsh clubs. The Welsh League is really terrible because you take your four big clubs out of Wales. It's really bad quality football. Stoke City, let's have a look at Stoke City. Their problems with Stoke City stem from basically getting comfortable in the Premier League and not making the additions to the squad that they needed, and some of the players they brought in didn't perform. Stoke City, no, they're not Welsh. Stoke City are very English. They're from Staffordshire. They're very English. You couldn't get. Oh no, look, Stoke have really fallen off a cliff the last 2 years. They really have not adapted well. They didn't. I think it's difficult. I think Mark Hughes, for whatever reason, didn't make the right. Was he in charge? Fully in charge of transfer policy at Stoke? Losing on Nautovic was a massive blunder. Losing Begovic in goal was a massive blunder. Robert Huth, they lost him to Leicester, so they never really replaced Huth. He goes on to win a Premier League. And yeah, they didn't add to that squad. They really, no, they didn't. I think Stoke are going to have a hard slog to get back in the Premier League. They had a good run, but Newcastle, I'm concerned about Newcastle going forward. I don't know how long Benitez is going to last as their manager. Not because he gets sacked, but I think he actually gets offered a better job where he's given more assurances about the long-term future of the club. The Amanda Staveley collapse and the deal that didn't go through, I think, it's still lingering. We've heard nothing more on it. It just never materialised. I don't know what's going to happen with Newcastle long term, and I'm being deadly honest. I honestly don't know what's going to happen with Newcastle long term. Mike Ashley's in the news for all the wrong reasons. And I think he wanted to sail. This time last year, he was pushing for a sale. He wanted it done by Christmas. It didn't happen. Then he wanted it done by Easter. It didn't happen. And we don't know what's happening long term. The investment in the squad hasn't been great. There's concerns that Benitez will walk away if he's not given any assurances. Um, it's a difficult one. Newcastle's been it's hit and miss with Newcastle with Mike Ashley because the club had overspent in their good years in the 90s. Yeah, Newcastle did really overspend in the 90s when they were pushing for the Premier League and they came runners up. They really spent too much. 10 years later, when Mike Ashley takes over, the club had overspent for many, many years. He takes over and they've been relegated twice. Promoted twice, but relegated twice in the Premier League. So it hasn't been plain sailing for them. I don't know. I mean, that little possession at home, I Newcastle really do just make me scratch my head. They really, really do. Benitez is the right guy to be your manager. I don't mind Benitez as a football manager. I think he's a very intelligent manager. But 10% possession, it makes Mourinho look good. And there are some things in football right now that I'm really scratching my head about, if I'm honest. And I'm being serious. There's a reason why I watch it less than I used to. I understand that there's a lot of you on the live stream tonight who are football main sport. That's your main sport, it's football. And I get that. You know, I mean, Mike, he's a football channel. Mike talks football. It is primarily a football channel. He doesn't cover any other sport really. A few of my other subscribers who have their own channels, mostly football. If you watch my channel, I cover everything, and I try and give every sport a fair hearing, I suppose, even if it's not my favourite sport. Um, a 3-0 scoreline in Spanish football. That kind of game doesn't really get talked about over in England because the big clubs in Spain always dominate the headlines because it's just clickbait. I think this is what I was saying about the taking La Liga games to the US. How many American fans in the US were interested in that in Levante winning, 3-0? That's something that I was getting at because I don't really follow Spanish football as such, but the La Liga plan to take games into the US is big news, and it's going to have real knock on effects for the sport across Europe if the players strike. And the plans that the Premier League came out with 10 years ago for that 39th game, and they got shelved. No, the Spanish fans they don't want nothing to do with it. The players want nothing to do with it, and I believe with Lopetegui coming out and giving his statement saying I support the players. I think the clubs have completely underestimated their players. I think that the league has underestimated the players and the fans, and has taken the fans for granted for too long. And we're going to come to a crossroads. And this is why I say that the salary cap will come into it, because the players want to get the fans on side for their strike because the fans love the sport. Spanish fans are fanatical. The Spanish fans have a big way in the say of how their clubs are run because they elect club presidents. So the fans have a stake in their club. The fans are the members. What La Liga are trying to do is, they want to grow the game in the US. You just sign a TV rights deal where your games are shown exclusively in the US with this media company. The fact that they've decided to take games there, and the Spanish and US federations would have had to okay this because it's competitive games. Because they're the organisations that govern the sport. And also, you got to look at the TV times. Look at the times they're kicking off. 10:15 at night. Mad. Do we think we should sack offsides? Do you mean get rid of offsides? I think the TV timings are crazy because that's not your prime time viewing hours. Your prime time viewing hours are between 5 and 9. And at weekends, Christ, you imagine that happening in this country, the outrage that would be. The offside rule in football, the offside in sport, and it doesn't matter what sport it is a massive debating point. If you've watched any of my NHL videos and some of my earlier live streams, they're having a debate in ice hockey about the offside rule regularly, and it was a big talking point in ice hockey last season. The thing is, because the Premier League has decided not to trial VAR this season in full, which I think is a blunder. The offsides are going to be more contentious, and there's going to be more mistakes. The VAR has got to be properly tested out in competitive games. The World Cup proved it works 90% of the time. There's a few teething issues with it, like the time it takes to make a decision and the communication between the referee and the players and the video ref and the fans in the stadium and the fans at home on TV. But for the most part, yes, it did work. I do think, though, that the offside rule needs looking at. I think they need to get the technology in and working. I do think the fact that the Premier League clubs voted against it is insanity with the amount of money at stake. I think if they were to vote now, they would vote for. There is still some issues with VAR, and we've discussed it on this channel, your channel, other channels have discussed it. It's all over Twitter. It's a big thing in the media. It's a big thing with experts. It's a big thing. But I'm so surprised that football has taken this long to get the technology to assist the officials. Rugby and ice hockey and cricket have had technology helping the officials for the better part of 2 decades. I am really, really, really surprised that it has taken this long for professional football at the top level to trial something. The World Cup showed, for the most part, it works. There are some teething issues. There is room for improvement with the system, and we need to get it right as a sport. They need to get it right. I'm very surprised that UEFA and FIFA and the other federations haven't, spoken to World Rugby and the Rugby League, and the NHL, and said what issues did you have when you implemented your system for the first couple of years? How did you work out how to fix the system? What are the parameters that you look at? Because then you'll lose about 80% of goals that take place in the box. You would lose out on so many goals. That would do it. My thoughts on rugby league season. I think the Challenge Cup final was a great final to watch. Not the highest quality in the second half. It was a complete. Last 20 minutes was a complete hot potato. But the fact that there's so many empty seats and travel chaos for fans and prices for fans, and again Wembley being criticised for its ticketing policy, really damaged the brand of the Challenge Cup. You need to get rugby league in this country needs to get more games from free to air. It does, because the Challenge Cup, they only show select Challenge Cup games. I did like the double header, but I missed the first of the double header semi-finals, which was really annoying because I forgot it was a double header. Because they could advertise the live games on TV better. They should have shared rights with Sky for the league games. They do that in Australia. They have several networks sharing the rights in Australia for the NRL. Viewership is up in Australia because half the games are on free to air. So they're shared rights in Australia. They need to do that here. That's what I think they need to do here. The sad thing is there's not enough of the regular season highlights. The highlight shows always a stupid time of night when no one's going to watch it at 3 o'clock in the morning. The Challenge Cup final, it was a shame to see so many empty seats for such a really entertaining final. It was one of the most entertaining finals I've seen in about 20 odd years. And it was a shame that there were so many empty seats, and that Club Wembley, again, the ticket price was wrong. Bearing in mind, rugby league fans aren't the wealthiest fans in the world. They mostly come from industrial areas. Oh no, it was a great cup final. Not the highest skill. There was the first half. Catalan were very, very good. 100% set completion. They were a machine. Warrington weren't quite at the races. The second half, it was just a shambles of poor skills. I think nerves got to the Catalan players, and Warrington from the first whistle were trying to throw the miracle ball and trying to play the miracle play. Um, this also highlights the skill gap between the NRL and Super League. Watching that cup final, entertaining though it was, and brilliant entertainment and high energy, the skill level gap is huge, absolutely massive. Um, I think the way to improve the sport in this country is to expand it to the south of England. A lot of money in the south of England, a lot of investment could go into rugby league. Um, there is a way of doing it. You have to get both codes to sit around the table and say we're having joint clubs where we have a rugby league side and a rugby union side. They tried it with Harlequins to some success with the London Broncos. That could be a way to appeal to fans in the home counties, the southeast, the southwest, the Midlands, and you can still play the season in the summer, which I think is insane. I think that's an issue having it as a summer league. That's madness because you got to look at the heat we've had this summer and how little rain we've had. Those the, the temperatures over, like, we've had multiple days over 30 degrees, multiple, and you're playing a brutal, fast-paced contact sport in 30 to plus degrees for most of the summer. Don't have it as a summer league, please, lads. I think that's where part of the problem with rugby league is it's they've got made it a summer league. And that's Sky's decision. That was Murdoch, because he didn't want it to clash with the Premier League football or the rugby or the cricket rights he had. He's holding the strings and he's strangling the pissing sport. And I keep going about Murdoch and how much I hate him. But no, rugby league needs to wean itself off Murdoch's millions from the Sky TV deal. It needs to find a media partner who can show the games free to air and share the rights, because the Murdoch media empire is strangling the game. Killing it, absolutely killing it. Murdoch's is also trying to destroy rugby league in Australia as well. There's a reason why we have the NRL in Australia and the Super League in the UK, and that's to do with Murdoch trying to make money out of the sport and damaging and causing chaos to the sport. And he nearly killed the sport in Australia at club level, and he's doing his best to do the same over here. And yeah, Murdoch is basically holding rugby league to ransom. Murdoch pulled a plug, and rugby league is doomed. It just does not have the wide fan appeal that rugby union does. It doesn't have a wide enough player or fan base outside of the north of England. The London Broncos have not been the success that rugby league wanted them to be. Yes, they got to a Challenge Cup final and got battered. I remember that in '95. They got to the Challenge Cup final and got slaughtered. If the London Broncos were better and actually had some success in the '90s and the noughties when they actually had a decent side, the game could grow in the south of England, where a lot of the economic powerhouse of England is, and Great Britain, and you could get more money flowing into the sport and more teams, and a wider player base and a wider fan base. But for some reason, rugby league in the UK, very north of England, Lancashire, Yorkshire, and Cheshire, it's very entrenched. It doesn't want to venture south. It sort of thinks that we as Southerners, I love rugby league, but apparently, according to rugby league, we're not interested down here, south of Birmingham. We're not interested in the sport. Well, we are. Otherwise, I wouldn't bloody watch it. And we do have the London Broncos, and they do, sell tickets, and fans do watch them. And I think it's a crying out shame that rugby league doesn't really want to, grow the game in the south of England. But it's just the old boys club running it, and they need to go, and they need to wean themselves off Murdoch's money. They really do, because they're killing their own sport. Wigan Warriors. I remember the great Wigan sides of the '90s. I can remember when Wigan when I was a kid. They, I think, won 9 Challenge Cups in a row or something like that, 9 or 10. Towards the end of their run, I was a kid, and just before St Helens um, started to topple them. Yeah, I remember the Wigan Warriors back in the day. They're not the side they were 20 years ago. They're not the side they were 25 years ago. I think the Tompkins brothers incident earlier in the year has left a bad taste in the mouth at that club. I think Sam and Joel Tompkins, that you know, I think, yeah, the Tompkins brothers and their drinking antics earlier in the year and their hammering in the Challenge Cup um, has left a bad taste in the mouth. I think we're going to have got a few issues off the field in that dressing room that need addressing. No, the teams in Yorkshire, yeah, the Asian population, they watch cricket. They're cricket fans. That's their thing. They play cricket. They love cricket. Um, and rugby league is not actually enticing them to watch games. It's not encouraging them. It's not targeting them. Rugby league is seen as a very working class white man sport. Rugby union, however, is making the strides to have a more multicultural fan base and players from all backgrounds playing. Rugby league needs to seriously, you know, get with the times. They need to grow the game outside the north of England. I think Leeds. I haven't watched enough of Leeds this season to make an assessment. Although I did watch the Melbourne Storm Leeds Club World Challenge game, and Leeds were battered, absolutely battered, and it really highlighted the gap in quality between the NRL and the Super League. Really did. That was the last. Well, I've watched, I think, 3 Leeds games this year, 2 in the Challenge Cup and the World Club Challenge. And the World Club Challenge really summed up the quality gap. And other rugby league fans disagree with me on the quality gap, but rewatch the Melbourne Storm versus Leeds Rhinos. Bearing in mind, Melbourne Storm was still in pre-season, and Leeds Rhinos had already been playing competitive rugby league for about a month at that point, and hammered. I think it was 36-6. I think was the final score. It was absolutely one-way traffic. It was really hard watch. It was a hard watch. The Madden clip. What is the Madden clip, Sean? I'm not 100% certain on the Madden clip, so you're going to have to refresh me what the Madden clip is about. But Roland Garros, this is French Open. I watched some of it. I was working a lot of the time, so I was, I don't know enough about the Madden tournament. I haven't really heard much about it. I'm going to have to quickly have a look at that. Bear with me 1 second. Let me just get that up on the internet here quickly. Let me get my phone out. Bear with me if the signal starts cracking up. I'm looking at something on the internet quickly. Madden. Let's have a look. Well, literally over here, and I've got the news article up. So if you bear with me, yeah, it's literally just come up. A shooting occurred during a Madden 19 tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. It's at an e-gaming event. It's on a Twitter page of Complexity Gaming. The Jacksonville Sheriff's Office say there are multiple fatalities, and they're at the scene. A law enforcement official briefed on the incident said preliminary reports say 11 people were shot, 4 killed. One suspect is dead at the scene. It's basically, the guy has fired off multiple shots, and this is all coming out literally in the last half an hour. This is only broken on the news 7 minutes ago. It's already on CNN. It's on CNN. It is on USA Today, NBC, the New York Times, Los Angeles Times, which is the other side of the country, reporting it. Telegraph. Yep. In the last hour, the Telegraph here in the UK has published it about an hour ago. It broke. It's on the Vox website. It's on. Yeah, it's just exploded. We were talking about esports and e-gaming as a sport the other night. This was an e-games tournament for Madden 19. So this is a beta they're playing. So these are people who are like American football. They want to play the computer game. Sean is a gamer because I've seen some of his tweets and channel stuff. This is in the last hour, and yeah, I honestly, this must have happened when I started the live stream. Um, I was planning to end the live stream here anyway, but on this note, and I will say this, even though this is a sports channel, I'll say this: this highlights the issues socially in the US, the availability of firearms, the fact that you can be told you're not welcome in this club. You go home, you get a gun, and you shoot the club owner or you shoot the club members, which is what's happened here. This is a gaming club. They're having an online gaming tournament with a few other gaming teams. They may have had to ban a member of one of the teams for abusive language or whatever it may be, and he's gone in there and shot him. It's America. You can get a gun for $500 with ammunition. Don't even need to have a full background check in some states. It's absolute madness. Absolute madness. I don't know where the clip's been released because that really shouldn't have been. All I know is from what I've just read, various news outlets are reporting that it happened within the last 2 hours. It's an active scene. Police are there. 4 dead, 11 injured. It is mainstream. It's now exploded on the internet. It's all over Twitter. That sums up the state of America at the moment. And it's only been 10 months since the Vegas mass shooting. Days before the Vegas Golden Knights played their first competitive match in the T-Mobile Arena. It has been 10 months since that shooting. I would class this as a similar type thing. I would actually class this as a similar type thing, an event which brings people together. And I love computer gaming, and esports is a growing thing, and it's bringing people together, and they're all doing it. And Jacksonville is a city which does have issues with gang crime. Most cities in Florida have issues with drug gangs, but it's bringing people together. Someone doesn't want that to happen. Now, I'm not sure if the police have shot this man or men, but it's another mass shooting, and it's another indictment on US gun laws. Oh God, I've got friends who live in the US. I've got family live in the US. Some of my family live in gated communities for their own safety because they live in Arizona, and Tucson and Phoenix are gun mad cities where firearms are everywhere, murder rates are high. The irony is, American TV programs and American films glorify gun violence, yet the actors whine every time people get shot. The irony behind that. The media in the US glorifies the firearm, and then the actors and the celebrities whine when people get murdered in mass shootings. Make your mind up. That's basically what I say to Americans. Get your laws to evolve, or keep killing each other. And they have a go at us saying, "Oh, we can't defend our own property." Yes, we can. It's just a couple of really pathetic judges. You know, you don't need a firearm to protect yourself in this country. We had a mass shooting at a school, brought in very strict gun laws. We haven't had that many mass shootings. In fact, we had 2 mass shootings in my lifetime: the Hungerford massacre and the Dunblane massacre. Gun laws have been changed. Mass shootings like that don't happen anymore. They haven't happened since. There's been shootings, yes, mostly gang-related shootings, not some idiot with a firearm, mental health or otherwise, legally bought or otherwise, murdering random people. Yeah, Andy Murray and Jamie Murray were young primary school students in Dunblane. Yep, they were at school at the time that happened. Andy and Jamie Murray, the Murray brothers, who are both 2 of Britain's greatest ever tennis players, were at school at the time. And it's by a stroke of luck that they didn't get hit with a bullet. So, and people forget that. People think that Andy Murray and Jamie Murray are two. Well, Andy Murray especially is a grumpy Scotsman with no personality. Um, People forget that Jamie and Andy Murray were in school that day, and people forget that they could quite easily not be here because of that shooting. Oh yeah, no. America is it's crazy because you've got state gun laws, and then you have federal gun laws, and then you've got the ATF, and it's all um, because of outdated laws in the Constitution. The right to bear arms. You know, they this is not the Wild West anymore, which is what the Constitution was when it was written. You got the expansion westwards and the Indian Wars and the Mexican American Wars and the Spanish American Wars and U.S. Civil War. It's completely different now. The U.S. There is no Wild West. There is no wilderness to be tamed and explored. But because they haven't updated their constitution, and no one, and even the Democrats, these snowflake Democrats, they don't want to touch it either, because even the snowflakes say we need to have guns still, but we need to tighten up the gun laws. I just, I, it is what it is. But I wasn't expecting to end the live stream this way, because as it is a bank holiday, I'm going to go out and I don't have to work tomorrow, so I'm going to go to the pub. But I wasn't expecting to end the live stream this way with such a sad story that's happened, and yet another mass shooting and more innocent lives taken. But I think it's sort of taken the energy out of my live stream now. I think. I have friends who live in the US. I have friends who work in the US. I have family in the US. Oh, sure. Don't be sorry. I mean, it happens. Um, it honestly does happen. The fact you are a gamer and you're into your esports and your gaming, because I do actually occasionally watch your little channel, and I do follow you on Twitter, and you follow me on Twitter. Um, I understand why you've mentioned it, because that's part. It's like the same with the Broncos bus crash. Um, you know, Something has to happen in North America. Something has to happen in the US, because it won't be long before there's a mass shooting at an NFL game, NHL game, Major League Baseball, MLS. It will happen. It will happen, especially with NFL players taking the knee. It will happen. A right wing gun nut will do something, and then that's real big news. Then I don't know how much media coverage this is going to get over here. For some reason, the British media seems to have a hard on for the American social crap that doesn't really actually affect us, but they seem to have a real hard on for it. So we're probably going to have loads of that splashed over our news channels tonight, which will just go well with the bloody Pope being in Dublin. I'm not Irish. Well, I have got Irish ancestry, and I can qualify for an Irish passport. Um, Rugby League Live 4, I will have a look at it. Definitely. I'm not a big fan of sports computer games anymore, but I will have a look at it. I don't have an issue with that. I will definitely have a look and see if it is a game for me. Um, I've got the other channel, of course, the History Boffin, so I can always have a look at it, order it, play it, give it a game review out of 10, and go, yay or no. I think it will be on Sky and BBC within the next half hour. It will. But anyway, on that note, I'm gonna love you and leave you guys. You guys enjoy your weekend. Sean, enjoy the rest of your day in Canada, and we'll have some more videos soon. Thank you very much for coming in, Sean. I know it's sad news you've broken, but hey, it happens. Be glad that you live in Canada and I live in the UK, and we actually have gun laws that protect us. But I will check out the Rugby League Live 4. I'll have to have a check out and have a little look at it. And yeah, I'm heading off out because it's bank holiday in the UK. Well, in England and Wales, not in Scotland, because they have different bank holidays, which is weird. But everyone enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the rest of the day, and We'll have, I think, we'll have some interesting videos tomorrow. We'll do a lot of more historical videos tomorrow, so keep an eye out for them. And we'll have a live stream in the evening, I think. And we shall see you tomorrow. Good night, lads.